My name is Caleb, thanks for joining me for this video. It's going to be a review of the 85mm f1.8 lens from Meike, and this is the full autofocus version. So in the box you're going to have your lens, front and rear lens covers, a pouch, a cloth, and your lens hood. The lens hood is reversible, so that way you can always just keep it attached to the lens, which should save you from losing it or getting it broken or something. In terms of build quality, there's a bit of play in the focusing ring, but that's the only issue that I have with the lens. I'll let you hear that here. Other than that, the build quality is solid. So the lens mount is actually metal, and they have built in a USB port in there for firmware upgrades. However, I don't think we're gonna see very many of those. This lens has been out for a little bit, and there's only one firmware upgrade available on the website. And I actually believe it's the original firmware that comes with the lens. So I really don't think we're gonna see any firmware upgrades for this lens. Since we're talking about firmware, the autofocusing is a bit slow, however it's accurate and the lens is sharp. This is my second copy of this lens. The first copy I actually sent back because the autofocusing was really slow. It was not accurate and it could not focus to infinity. The lens also wasn't very sharp. This copy, however, has solved all of those problems. It is still a bit slow, but it's way better than the first version of the lens that I had. The sharpness of this lens allows me to overlook how slow it is, but lastly also how loud it is. So this lens is a fairly loud lens compared to every other lens that I own. I think it is the loudest. And maybe noise level wise it's not the loudest, but pitch wise it is. So to me it sounds just about as loud as the Yongnuo 50mm f1.8. If you're familiar with that lens, the noise level is about the same, but the pitch on this lens is higher. I've compared it with a Tamron 28 to 75mm as well as the Yongnuo 50mm f1.8, so that you can hear the noise level difference and you could kind of make up your mind for yourself. Okay, so now that you've heard that, we're gonna look at some pictures so you can see some of the other lens attributes and you can see just how sharp it is. So you're gonna notice two things are gonna be your best friend: bokeh and chromatic aberration. Not evident right now, right? Okay, this is the original image. So right away you can see some bluish purplish fringing on the grill here. What I want you to focus on though is the detail though, right? Because as you will see, the color fringing is easy to get rid of in post-production. Every like worth using program nowadays has like a few clicks and you get rid of all the color fringing. But look at the details in the light. Look at the details in the blinker. Look at the details in the water that ran down this dirty windshield. Look at the squiggly lines in these winter tires. Look. Right, I don't know why they have on winter tires on this car though. It was summer when I took this picture, but look at the squigglies, right? And let me show you with the color fringing gone, right? So I only removed it in the areas that made sense and mattered to me, but anywhere you have a sharp line, so you have an edge that's in bright light, you're gonna get some color fringing with this lens. But in my opinion, small price to pay for how sharp it is at this price point and with the bokeh that it's producing. So this background is only like 2 or 3 car lengths behind the car, and I'm also like 5 to 10 car lengths in front of the car, and I'm still able to get this much background separation. So really, really amazing job if you ask me. Another one, so bokeh, foreground blown out, background blown out, car in focus, and color fringing. Look at all that blue, right? So look at all the blue on the grill here. But again, look at all the details. You can see the radiator behind this grill, right? And then with a little bit of editing, the color fringing is way less noticeable, especially when you look at the image like a normal person. The average person isn't gonna zoom in like this, right? Look at this image. Background blown out, foreground blown out. No, I think it's because this day was more overcast, but there isn't really a lot of chromatic aberration, so much so, or fringing, so much so that I didn't have to put a defringe layer on this one to have this image still look good. So I'll show you the original just in case you don't believe me. Once again, so these past 3 shots are all wide open f1.8, right? So this is the raw and this is the edited version. It looks good. No defringe this time. Everything looking sharp. I mean, look at the wheels. Look at the details in the wheels. Look at the detail in the light. So you can actually see a reflection of the building in the light. Right in the headlamp. Next image. Look at the details on her face. So this is my beautiful partner. You can see all the details in her skin here. You can see all the details in her hair. You can see the individual strands of her hair. This is at f1.8. Right, and look at how blown out that background is. That is really impressive, if you ask me. So you get some nice background compression and nice creamy bokeh, and then your subject is in focus. So lastly, 85mm is a portrait length, so it's very likely you're going to purchase this and want to do some portraits with it. You can use this lens in studio too. Take a look at my son here. You can see all the detail on him. You can see the detail in his hair. Look at all it. Count the strands of his hair. Go ahead. You could count the strands in his hair. You can see details in his. You can count his eyelashes. Count his eyelashes. You can see details in his eyes. No, it's not. I drew in some of this stuff, but you can see like clear outline of his pupil, his cornea, like all of that. Right? You can count these like pores and stuff on his skin. You can see all that detail. Right? If we were looking up his nose, you can see up his nose. Look, I know I saw it earlier. There's a strand of hair on his clothes somewhere here. Look, you can see this strand of hair on his clothes. Right? But keep in mind, this is an f8 now. So some photographers like to have that whole face in focus look for their studio portraits. So if that's the look you're going for, this is how sharp this lens can be. And worth noting is when you stop down, so when you go to like f8, you're not gonna see, or maybe even sooner than that, so like let's say f4, f5.6, you're not gonna see as much chromatic aberration or color fringing or any of that, if you see any at all. So in this case, you're not seeing any color fringing. So typically, if you're shooting wide open and you have lights like this, you're gonna see some weird colors in the hair and that sort of stuff. There's none of that, and that's because you stop down. But it just goes to show that this is indeed a quality lens. So final verdict, if you are considering getting the Canon 85mm f1.8 lens, and then you came across this lens because you don't want to pay the price for it, I recommend it. The only thing that would probably hold people back from this lens is how noisy it is. Because I've heard that the Canon version, the Canon 85mm f1.8, I heard it is not very sharp. I haven't seen it myself. I haven't tested one myself, but from the reviews that I've seen, it didn't look very sharp, and I've heard it's not very sharp. I can tell you for a fact, if you get a good copy of this lens, it's going to be very sharp, as you can see. But it's very loud. So, if you're going to be shooting in a library, in a church, during a service, you might want to buy this lens. But if you're doing portraits, product photos, car photos, you're not using the autofocus, this lens is worth every penny because it's cheaper than if you bought a used 85mm f1.8. And furthermore, it probably is sharper. I own other Canon lenses. This is sharper. This is the sharpest, one of the sharpest lenses that I own now. So, that's it. Thanks for the review, or rather I should say thanks for watching my review of this lens, and I hope it was very helpful. And I'll see you in another lens review or camera related review. Take it easy everybody, keep safe out there, it's still Corona time, and peace.